Hello everyone, I'm AloneRacecar and welcome to the video. And today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. This time I'm going to be talking about a racing game. More specifically, the original Forza Motorsport. Because as of 2025 and just about to be 2026 soon, it is now a 20-year-old game. And with me is the very copy that I have of this racing game in the last 20 years. Or basically, however long that I've known of its existence in the house I've been living in. As you can tell, its stickers have all been peeled and worn off, and you can tell it's a little bit crumpled from water being spilt on it or something. But you can pretty much say that this copy of mine has been aged with love. Now, as someone who has played the Forza series for a long time, it's only fair that I will take you on a journey of what the original game was like, as well as talking about my own personal history of the original Forza Motorsport. Is this some kind of retrospective or something? Not really. I'm just some near 30-year-old who's just talking about old memories. So with that being said, let's get on with the video. So, imagine coming home from school or work and starting up your Xbox, and then it's quiet. You then see a moving road coming towards you, with a nice bright neon outline of a Ford Mustang, a couple racing cars, and even a Ford GT. And then it flashes towards a starting grid at Silverstone, with some GT race cars and teams prepping for battle. And then it cuts that pre-race adrenaline buildup as a grid girl traces her finger across the race car. Plus, you get a little bit of a shot for the bros out there who like belly buttons. Then, as the light goes green, it flashes to a racing scene where an Acura NSX transforms into the cover car of this game. And then it showcases some other cool racing action because it's so cool, even though everyone sounds like they got a supercharger. And yeah, I hear that muscle from a Ford GT. Ooh, a drifting scene. Oh, a crashing scene. And more cool racing action. Then it eventually cuts to a Subaru Impreza with the Forza title on its hood, and the camera crashes right into it, eventually revealing the very logo of the game. And then, if you're a true Forza veteran, this little bit of nostalgia will hit you like a sack of bricks. The first Forza Motorsport was released back in May of 2005 for the original Xbox. Microsoft's intent on making this game was for it to compete against Sony's renowned Gran Turismo series. Now, Microsoft Game Studios was no stranger when it comes to making racing games beforehand. The most notable examples is when they were making Rally Sport Challenge 1 and 2 with Digital Illusion CE, or better known as DICE. These two were like off-road rally racing games with arcade-style racing with simulation elements to it. This is also called a simcade. We've also had the Project Gotham Racing series, when they were still teaming up with Bizarre Creations. At the time, this used to be Microsoft's flagship racing game before Forza took over, at least in my opinion. This racing series was all about high-octane, arcade-style racing game on closed circuits, when it isn't just about winning, it's about doing so with style. Assuming you don't crash. Don't! But when they were developing Forza, they wanted a full-on racing simulator with realistic driving and realistic physics from the ground up. Or more specifically, using Gran Turismo 3 as a base template, based on what I've heard. Development of the first Forza first started in 2002, and had about 2 years for the team to develop the game. So really, it was supposed to be a game that was supposed to come out in 2004, but delays of the game stalled it until it eventually came out in 2005, just when the Xbox 360 came out that same year. The gameplay was a little bit more forgiving than it was for Gran Turismo, but it still has some elements that do make for a good challenge. Plus, you can tell that they've certainly tried on making the most realistic style of racing as possible at the time. This was also during the time before the rewind feature came to the Forza series, so if you end up crashing out or spun out and lost significant time and position, then your race was practically over and you have to restart the whole thing again. Also, if you were to come in for a pit stop during the career mode, there was a list of all the things if you want to fix during your pit stop. Now obviously, there were some cars that are much more easier to drive than others, but the original Forza's handling was a bit more grippier compared to some of the later entries. At least speaking from my own experience coming back to play this game again. Like many racing games, Forza offers a mix of tracks that are both fictional and ones that exist in real life. The OG Forza has 6 of them. The Scuba Circuit, Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, Road Atlanta, Road America, Silverstone, and the Nürburgring Nordschleife. You've also got circuits that, while fictional, they were definitely based off of real-life circuits, probably because of a licensing thing. Such circuits is the Alpine Ring, which based on its layout and location, I'm going to assume that this is probably based off of the Red Bull Ring and the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps all in one circuit. And then you've got the Blue Mountains Raceway, which is probably based off of Bathurst or Mount Panorama Circuit, which was actually a track that didn't appear up until Forza Motorsport 5. You've also got the Sunset Peninsula Raceway, one being a tri-oval, boy do I have some good memories on that, and an infield circuit. I'm going to assume that this one is probably based off of Daytona, based on the infield circuit alone. And then we got circuits that take place in a city. First we got the New York circuit, which in my opinion is an absolute classic. You've got the short circuit, which pretty much goes around Times Square, and you've also got the full circuit, which is kind of the same layout, but a little bit more extended. And then we've got the Rio circuit, which is like a high-speed, straight-up circuit with sharp 90-degree turns. And the funny thing is that the Rio location never made an appearance in the Forza Motorsport series until it returned in Forza Motorsport 6 with a whole new layout. And then you've got the Tokyo circuit, which was infamous for a really sharp, almost 180-degree hairpin turn, and it was a circuit that took place at night. That's right, fellas. Night racing existed in the original Forza Motorsport, something that, just like the Rio circuit, didn't make a comeback in the Forza Motorsport series until Forza Motorsport 6. Of course, if you're a Forza veteran like me, you know that Forza Motorsport is not complete without Maple Valley Raceway, both the full circuit and the short circuit. Plus, I've also had some fun memories of racing my dad on the circuit when we played this game on split screen. There was also a funky and complicated track called the Test Track Infield, which is pretty much like a long circuit with a tremendous amount of turns for like testing your car's handling or turning abilities or something like that. The track also has a reverse layout where you pretty much go in the other way, and also an oval. But unlike the one in Peninsula, this one acted more of like a test circuit for stretching your vehicle's top speed, and as well as giving a little bit of an exercise to your throttle finger. The OG Forza didn't just have circuits, it also has a good handful of point-to-point races too. We pretty much race from one point of the course to the other. You've got the Pacific Shipyards, which I swear it feels like some kind of street racing course. But then again, many racing games and car culture itself at the time was heavily influenced by the Fast and Furious movie series, so I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. You've also got a point-to-point of the 4 sections of the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and there's also a little drag strip, and, which happens to be a real fan favorite, especially for those who do like drifting and that whole Toge showdown racing style, Fumiji Kaido. This particular Toge style course had some smaller sections you can race on, and of course there's also the full length you can do. And there's also one you can go uphill and one downhill. But overall, point-to-point races do offer a unique kind of challenge besides your typical number of lap races. Of course, it can't be an auto racing game without its cars, as the original Forza Motorsport has just about 230 vehicles to choose from, ranging from sports cars to classics to motorsport machinery and a few others in between. Plus, it also has some cars that make people like you and me smile. Now obviously, if you know Forza, many cars in this game are divided by their performance class, with D-Class being the more basic but sporty cars that you and I are pretty familiar with. Cars like the Mazda 3, the Mini Cooper, the Honda Prelude, and the Chrysler PT Cruiser. Yes, that's right, the Chrysler PT Cruiser used to be in Forza back in the day, and it was a peak driving machine. Kids these days don't understand. And then you have cars all the way to the S-Class, which is the high-performance class with cars like the Carrera GT, the Saleen S7, and the Ferrari Enzo. Then you've got R-Class, which is the class of the race cars. You've got GT cars like the Cadillac CTS-V race car or the JGTC Toyota Supra. And then you've got some Le Mans racers, such as the Bentley Speed 8 or the Panos LMP01. Oh, and in my opinion, no Forza Motorsport game is complete without an Xbox car. Now keep in mind, cars in a performance class are measured by their power, grip, and weight. So you could actually upgrade your vehicle to compete in a more higher class. However, you can't really tune a car to compete against race cars. That was something you couldn't do up until Forza Motorsport 3. More on that later. Now let's talk about the game modes of the OG Forza. First you got Arcade Race, where you race a set number of circuits in a series. You can use any car provided from any class of your choosing, or use your own vehicles from the career mode. Once you do that, then happy racing. In arcade mode, you have to come at least third place in each race of that series to unlock the next series of tracks. However, you will have to win every race in order to unlock all the cars from that series. And you can use these unlocked cars in arcade mode, multiplayer, and free run. And then you've got multiplayer mode, which was the place where you can compete against others online through Xbox Live, or go head-to-head with a buddy of yours through split-screen mode. You can also race friends of yours through System Link. Now, I sort of knew of what System Link is, but never actually practiced it. Plus, I was also a little bit too young to really understand the whole thing. Of course, this was also during the time before Xbox Live became mainstream. Alright, personal story. Years ago, back when I was still in grade 2, which is sort of around the time when I was first playing this game, I remember racing against my dad through split screen mode. And it was always a Saturday when we do it. I even still remember jotting down the words race day on every Saturday. And sure enough, every Saturday, my dad and I, started up the Forza game, and then we did a couple races on split screen mode. My dad and I would race cars like the PT Cruiser on Maple Valley Raceway and drive the fastest race cars on the Peninsula Speedway. Up until it was time to do laundry, or he pretty much, got sick of me crashing all the time. But regardless, it is certainly no doubt some fun memories of mine, especially when it comes to back when I was first playing racing games. Alright, moving on to time trial mode. Here's where you are provided a specific car on a specific circuit. And all you need to do is to pretty much use your driving skills to both master the car's ability to set the fastest time lap. And then you've got free run mode, where you can pretty much use any car you like, from your career cars to the ones in arcade, on any circuit or point-to-point course, where you can pretty much practice and, pretty much have fun. Or intentionally beat up your vehicle. Oh, and there's also a couple of autocross courses that you can run as well. Not too shabby to practice your precise driving skills. Also, if you hit a cone or miss them, you will get a penalty. Okay, it's time we talk about the career mode of the game, where you race and compete in championships to earn yourself some credits to collect, tune, and customize cars from around the world. When you start a new career, you are given the options to choose what region you want your driver to be from. You've got North America, Europe, and Asia. What region you choose will be what your starting car will be and what kind of cars will be available to you when it comes time to buy a new car for your collection. So let's say you want to get yourself a BMW race car. If you started in the European region, then the BMW race cars will be automatically available to you right from the get-go, of course when you get the credits for it. Whereas if you started in the North American or Asian region, then those cars will be locked up until you reach a certain level to unlock them. Now choose wisely, because once you select your region and your starting car, you cannot change your region going forward. Unless of course you start a brand new profile and career with it. Of course, there's going to be some cars that are locked specifically up until you win them in a championship or reach a certain driver level. I know it's a very typical Forza thing to be always winning cars when you reach a certain driver level, but I personally didn't seem to mind it because, obviously I grew up playing Forza, but it wasn't as, that instant gratification as it was in later Forza titles. At least with some of the more earlier ones, you still have to try to, work your way to earn those cars, you know what I'm saying? Once you've made your selection, that's where the journey begins. When you select Go Race from the career menu, that will give you access to all the races and event types. First, you got the amateur events, where you pretty much race championships with pretty basic restrictions, like region, drive type, car type, or model family. Then you've got point-to-point races, which what I have already discussed earlier in this video. Their championship restrictions are very similar to the amateur events from drive type to model families. Then you've got the professional events, where their championships are just a bit more stricter compared to the amateur events. You've got championships like a specific car class, a specific level of power, and there's a few spec events with a specific car where everyone's driving the exact same car completely stock. Next we have the championship events, where you have to do races in a very specific order, where unlike the professional or amateur events, you can pretty much do whatever kind of order you like. With these events, you are awarded points based on your finishing position of each race, until it will all tally up for your final position once the championship is over. Kinda just like championship racing and motorsports in real life. Finally, you've got the endurance events. While you only get to do one race in these championships, as the name says it, these races are going to be long, where pit strategy will have to come in play when it comes to getting fresh new tires and replenishing your fuel. But the prize money you get from winning these races? Totally worth it in my opinion. There will be events and championships that will be locked until you reach a certain level. So in other words, the higher your driver level is, the more you can access the big money races. Oh yeah, I guess I should include the online career races, where you can pretty much race against other people on Xbox Live while still be able to earn some credits and level up your driver level. Now, I never got the chance to experience this mode back then because obviously I was still in grade 2 back when I was first playing this game, plus I didn't really know any better what Xbox Live was all about at the time. So for the most part, I pretty much just sat there and thought about what the opportunities could be throughout this mode. Based on loosely what I see in the menus and also on the back of the case of this game, it says talk shop or talk trash in intense Xbox Live online multiplayer racing. Trade cars online, create car clubs, or battle your way up the real-time scoreboards. Now besides the online racing itself of the original Forza Motorsport, it did sound like that there were car clubs at the time, which is kind of like a clan that you would start with your friends on games like Call of Duty or Halo or something. And obviously with the scoreboard, leaderboard, and all that shebang. Now what I did find something interesting is that it mentioned something about trading cars online, so maybe there was once an auction house in the original Forza Motorsport? I don't really know. Hard to tell because, like I said, I never got to experience the online mode of the original Forza. Now, for the career races. You earn credits and increase your driver level by completing races. You can also earn a little bit of extra credits by increasing the difficulty of your opponents and also turn off some assists such as, driving a manual transmission instead of an automatic for a change. However, If you want to win the championship and earn that prize car, you have to win every single race of that series. However, if we're talking about the championship events where you earn points, you don't have to win every race, but you still gotta come up on top if you want to win. You can use these hard-earned credits of yours to get yourself some new cars in the Buy Car screen. Simply select a country, a manufacturer from that country, and browse to your heart's content. Sometimes there will be moments where you'll have to look for a very specific car to compete in a specific championship. I also like this search thing where you can pretty much look for specific vehicles from your price range to era, car class, and a few other things like drive type or engine position. The later Forza title still kind of has this, but it's done a little bit differently, from like sorting out cars from manufacturer to car division and all that. There was also this profile to profile feature in the garage menu where you can pretty much buy other cars from other people's profiles in game on your Xbox console, which was something that I find quite interesting. I suppose it was an alternative in case if you want to get those hard to acquire cars based on your starting region. Since now we're talking about the garage menu, let's talk about that. In My Cars, here's where you can browse and admire your car collection. You can also get in to switch vehicles or sell vehicles in case if you need the credits for doing so. You can even look at history and more details about your cars as well. With your selected car, you can also use your credits to bring it to the upgrade shop to make performance magic happen. The upgrade shop is where you can enhance your car's performance and make some cosmetic changes as well. And the more that you purchase and install higher level engine parts, handling parts like tires, or even trim it down a little bit, not only will it increase its performance stats, but also upgrade its car class to an even higher class too. You can even make some changes to your car's appearance, such as changing the rims, bumpers, spoilers, window tints, and you can even install a roll cage or even change the taillight in some vehicles. Okay, side note. One thing that I also find interesting in the upgrade shop, and something I almost forgot about, is that there are way more options for rear spoilers, especially the Forza Aero brand ones too. Because as you can see, we have like 3 different options, one being a big square chunk GT spoiler, and another one that's more taller but more thinner one, and then there's one that's sort of in between. And then since Forza Motorsport 5, we've had this impy looking spoiler here. Well, okay. It looks alright on some cars, but what was there back then to what we have now? Like, what? Now you couldn't do it with every car back then. Let's say this Lotus Elise for an example. As you can see, I can change its rims and window tint, but that's all I'm able to do with this thing cosmetically. But then let's say you get your hands on a race car, whether if you've bought one or won one from a championship, you couldn't do anything at all. However, you are able to change its setup though. In Tune Car Setup, here's you can make those fine adjustments to your vehicle's performance. You can change the setup from gear ratios to suspension, aerodynamics, and etc. There will be some sections that will be unavailable to you unless of course you install a certain upgrade to your car in the upgrade shop. But with race cars, you've got full access to the screen. You've also got the benchmark where you can calculate your car's braking point and acceleration, as well as lateral G's if that's something important. And then you've got Test Run where you can practice on any circuit to get a feel of your car's setup. But overall, the Tune Car Setup can certainly be a handy tool in case you need to make some adjustments for your vehicle to handle a certain circuit or to suit your driving style. Finally, we get to my favorite part. The paint and vinyls. I remember spending more time with these than the actual racing itself back then. When customizing the paint, you can choose to paint your car's main body, hood, mirrors, and spoiler if it has one. You had a more simpler color palette back then, but there are some decent colors to choose from. Heck, there was once an option where you can choose the color of your hood or other parts carbon fiber if you're that guy. And for those who have a creative side, the applied decals is where you can go crazy with vinyls and shapes all over your vehicle. You had about a respectable 6 pages of vinyl to choose from, And you can choose some manufacturer decals to apply with your vinyls too. As what I've mentioned, I spent a lot of time here back then, decorating my cars with all kinds of vinyls. I mean, sure, they probably weren't the greatest looking designs in my near 30-year-old eyes and mind, but back then, they were certainly artistic for an elementary schooler. I also recall making some of the most craziest designs to show off to like my mom or sister and friends of mine. And they would respond and be like, "Oh yeah, good job, pretty cool." And then friends of mine would be like, "Well, it's an alright car, but I'd like it red." Other than that, you can definitely find yourself at home with the paint and vinyl section of the customization to express your artistic desires. Lastly, in the career mode, we have Train Drivatar, where you can create and train your own personal AI driver that learns your driving techniques that can race for you in career races you don't feel like doing. Once you've named and created your Drivatar, you have to complete 5 lessons involving different tracks and different car types. Now you can do these lessons in any order you like, but you must complete all of them in order to unlock all the options and your Drivatar being ready to race. With free training, you can pretty much train your Drivatar on any circuit of the game using your own career cars. This can be helpful to get more accurate data and as well as make up some stats that were lost in previous lessons. In Observe, this is where you can watch your Drivatar in action on any track and any car from your garage just to see how well they handle themselves out there. Oh, another cool thing is that you can actually race against your Drivatar head-to-head while using the same car or different cars from your garage. Also, if you want to keep things interesting, you can have 4 other Drivatars you can race all together, whether it would be your friends, family, or even just random other Drivatars you created by yourself. While this was certainly an interesting feature of the original Forza Motorsport, this feature did kind of take a bit of a backseat in more later Forza titles like Forza Motorsport 3 and 4. Then Forza Motorsport 5 brought it back, but done differently in a more like a cloud save data kind of thing. So in other words, while it still learns your driving techniques the more you race, it also goes out its way in other people's games as an opponent and earn credits for you while you're away. Alright then, how do we conclude this? Well, there's no doubt that playing the original Forza again in 2025 has certainly been a nice treat for me this year. Especially when it comes to the fact that it was pretty much 20 years ago when I first started playing this very game. Especially when it comes to see how far I've come from first playing this game with my dad while also being that idiot kid who's always crashing, whether if I did it on purpose or not, to now being a much more established and decently skilled racing gamer. And heck, there's even still some parts of the original Forza that still test my driving expertise to this day. It was also nice to be revisiting some of the old circuits and cars that I almost forgot about because they never made an appearance since. Cars like the Tommy Mäkinen Mitsubishi Evo 6, a Mercedes CLK DTM race car, and an old 2004 Nissan Altima. One of my cousins used to have one. One could say that newer and later models have eventually replaced them, but it could also be a licensing thing as well, which why they never appeared since. Of course, there are also parts of the original Forza that I gladly don't miss, like how cars with a racing transmission sounds like they got a supercharger in it. And not to mention how the career menu music sounds really depressing. Well, compared to like what the main menu music had with instrumental covers composed by Junkie XL of songs like La Garage and Iron Man. Man, a Junkie XL was everywhere during the Y2K era of racing games. As for the music during races, it was just pretty much some generic race-ready rock music. There were also features that the original Forza Motorsport had that pretty much became a bit more convenient in later Forza titles. But that kind of makes the experience coming back to this game a little bit more unique, even if that means more friction. Other than that, I hope that you've enjoyed yourself with me showing you what the original Forza Motorsport was like and what kind of stuff it had as well. Now, the original Forza was not the most influential racing game I've played. That honor belongs to NASCAR 06, Burnout 3, the Y2K era Need for Speed games, the 2 Juice games, plus it was until Forza Motorsport 3 is when I eventually fell in love with the franchise. But it was the original Forza Motorsport that planted the seeds of me being into cars and then eventually motorsports as a whole. Plus, the original Forza was one of the first racing games I played in my life. I've grown up to be a Forza guy, and I will pass as a Forza guy, no matter what people say about the current state of the Forza franchise. But anyways guys, I've done my part. This was AloneRacecar, and I'll see you in another one.